Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to 3C Amplified. I'm your host, Jacqueline Destremps, and I'm here to highlight the businesses, nonprofits, and individuals collaborating to amplify their impact in the community. This series is sponsored by Another Hand Advantage, where we create marketing strategies for community-minded small businesses and nonprofits who want to amplify their impact and take the stress out of digital marketing. Joining me in the studio today is Jennifer Purcell, Director of Community Engagement at Alliance of Arizona Nonprofits, and Bryce Lloyd, Phoenix Market President with FirstBank. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, definitely. I know I probably sound like a broken record, especially when I post about this on social media. I always say, I'm so excited who I have in the studios today. But I really am excited today to have you both here. Big topic of the day. Obviously, we're going to talk about both your organizations as well. But big topic of the day, we've got Arizona Gives Day coming up.
Yes.
I was looking at all the promo stuff and I was like, oh, April 2nd. And then all of a sudden I looked, I'm like, that's next week.
It is not far away.
How did that happen? It's almost April already. So welcome to both of you. Let's start off. Just tell me, a little bit about, yourself and kind of who you're with, kind of a brief little introduction, and then we can get into talking about, your involvement with Arizona Gives Day.
All right. My name's Jennifer Purcell, obviously, and I've been with the Alliance since mid-2015 or so, but I've always had a background in working with nonprofit community, doing community affairs work for a for-profit organization. But within that whole time, always been working with them. So when the opportunity came about for me to get involved with the Alliance and also work on Arizona Gives Day, it fit right in with what I am interested in doing and how I can help the community.
Great. Thank you. And Bryce, how about for you?
Sure. I'm Bryce Lloyd. I'm with FirstBank, and Jennifer didn't tell you that she's a former banker.
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, that for-profit company was I think it was not FirstBank, but it was another bank.
All bankers are nice people.
They are.
I worked for FirstBank for almost 30 years, which is hard to believe. We have always been involved in the community and valued relationships with our nonprofit partners, and our partnership with the Alliance has been another good example of that, and we're really excited about Gives Day. That's coming up next week.
Yeah. So I think I ran, Jennifer, I was trying to think where I ran into you. It was a couple months back. It was a local first event downtown.
Yeah.
One of the things that caught my eye, so I've been familiar with Arizona Gives Day, but one of the things that caught my eye this year, doing things a little bit differently as far as how businesses can be involved with Arizona Gives Day, basically setting up their own fundraising pages so that employees can actually participate through their company in giving back. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we rolled out, it was, late January. So it really hasn't been available that long, but we do have the opportunity for businesses of any size, whether they have 1 or 2 employees up to over 1,000, to participate in Arizona Gives. And what they simply do is they fill out a very brief form. We get their page started, and then I give them a login, and off they go. They create their page. They put their own content on that one page. It's really just meant to use as a place to explain their philanthropic goals as a company and why they want people to engage on Arizona Gives. And we do have a little bit of a business challenge, so to speak, with the employee giving pages. And we have 6 different categories or sizes of companies, and the ones that raise the most money in each of those categories, we're going to be giving them $1,000 to donate to a nonprofit of their choice.
Oh, that's great. Now, are they is the company choosing a nonprofit and that all the employees will be giving to, or is that up to the employees to choose?
It's
based on.
Good question. Yeah. It's up to the employees to choose, actually.
Oh,
so
great.
They can choose what they're passionate about. We do have another opportunity for businesses. If they do want to select one nonprofit, they can actually create their own fundraising page. So if they want to select 1 or 2 or 3 and ask their employees to donate to one of those 3, they can. So there's a couple different options for them. And of course, we always accept in-kind advertising. Of course, we'd love to have sponsors as well. Those help us run the day. And so we actually have a page dedicated on azgives.org called Businesses or Getting Involved. And there's a whole slew of suggestions as to how they can get involved.
Yeah, great. So let's go back just a little bit. And Bryce, you had talked about FirstBank and just, your background in philanthropy already through FirstBank. How did Arizona Gives Day come about to begin with? Because it didn't actually start here in Arizona, correct?
That's true. And I think it may have started in Minnesota.
It did, yep.
Maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And it's, I think it's been a popular concept, and it's been done in many different places. And our bank's out of Colorado, and that was a state that was an early adopter a few years before Arizona. And that state's had great success. And I know in Texas, in the Arlington, Dallas, Fort Worth area, they have a big Gives Day as well. But we're really excited in Arizona. It just has gained momentum every year. Mm-hmm. And we had a record year last year. And you think about raising $3 million in one day. It's just a tremendous way to build awareness and resources for the nonprofit community. So it just fit well with our business ethics and kind of our marketing tagline, which is banking for good, mm-hmm. which means we try to do good for our communities and our customers and our employees. And it just really aligns well with our company's values.
So how did that partnership come about then, as far as who was it that said we should have an Arizona Gives Day, and how did that come about?
So it really started with a conversation between the Alliance of Arizona Nonprofits and the Arizona Grantmakers Forum. Both organizations are nonprofits themselves, and they're both statewide. So the Alliance really services and targets the nonprofit organizations in the state, while the Arizona Grantmakers Forum focuses on those who do the giving, so the philanthropic side. So those foundations, whether it be private or corporate foundations, are involved and have a resource as well. So that group kind of got together along with the Alliance and talked about, should we have a giving day? Does it make sense for the state to have a giving day, much like Colorado, much like Texas, Minnesota, et cetera? And obviously the answer was yes. They knew that FirstBank was a supporter of Colorado Gives Day. And so there was conversation that began from that to see if there would be interest in supporting it in the Arizona market. So obviously there was a lot of discussion around that. And then in 2013 was the first year that they did it. So I think 2011 and 2012 were probably when there was a lot of work going on behind the scenes mm-hmm. to figure out what it would look like.
I would say there was a big dose of serendipity in that we had a customer at our bank who was involved with the Grantmakers Forum, and he was aware that this concept was out there in Arizona. And I was not aware that they were contemplating this in Arizona. And he said, hey, we're looking at this. And I said, oh, that's interesting because we do sponsor that in Colorado. We knew how powerful that was. Well, really, maybe even that same week, our COO called me and said, hey, I think we should do something in Arizona. Is there an event or a group or a venue or something we can help out and brand? And I said, well, that's interesting because they're going to start an Arizona Gives Day down here. We saw how powerful that was in Colorado and how good it's been for that community. And we went and met, and obviously it was a great fit. And so it's just interesting how those things work out.
Yeah, definitely. So what does Arizona Gives Day look like now as compared to when it started then in 2013? What kind of an impact has it really had on the nonprofits that have participated, but maybe even also just as far as around the community coming together?
Yeah, the first year, obviously my first year being involved was in 2016. So this is now my fourth Arizona Gives. But the first year, I think they raised just under $1 million. So every year we've seen that increase. And, we've seen it grow from, we're not sure what this is, from the nonprofit community to people making this their one and only major fundraiser of the year. We have groups that have told us it's half of their donation dollars that come in for the year. So there are groups who are relying on the public's donations and Arizona Gives and what we do to help promote it in order to run their organizations and their missions. So I've seen it grow tremendously. Each year I've also seen media like yourselves mm-hmm. and others interested in knowing more about it, how groups are being affected and the impact that it's having. So those are all positive things. One thing I will mention that's changed a lot is just the technology has mm-hmm. changed a lot when it comes to online giving. And there's a lot more groups doing that, and we're trying to raise awareness of that, but also mobile giving. So making sure that we have a platform that's mobile friendly, because that's how a large majority of the donations actually come in. So we're glad to be what I feel on the cutting edge of a lot of that, and have a really robust system that's easy for people to use. So.
And I can plug the Alliance Arizona nonprofits. They in particular, the last 4 years, Jennifer and Krista Merrifield have come in and just done a great job taking it to the next level. The platform.
Why, thank you, Bryce.
You have. The technology is really slick, and it's fun to follow along on that day with your phone and watch the dollars add up. And they've just done a great job with awareness. And if you are a nonprofit and you're not in the Alliance, you should be, because it's your trade organization for the nonprofit community.
So let's talk a little bit about what that day of experience looks like, because I think that's one of the things that I enjoy most about it is even while I'm working, I still have a little tab open with the Arizona Gives Day kind of tallies going up and down.
Hear.
Yeah. And I also, whatever nonprofits I, give to that year, I'm looking and seeing like, oh, where are they at? So tell us a little bit about kind of what that day of experience looks like.
Well, from my perspective,
right,
being in the office, we try to make the office itself a little fun, because it is an online campaign, but we do ask, nonprofits to create an event around it because, for PR, but the day is kind of hectic. We do pre-scheduled donations. So you could go out today if you wanted and pre-schedule your donation to hit on April 2nd. And so in the wee morning hours when everyone is sleeping, donations start processing and transactions start happening. So, I usually sleep a couple hours in the morning, and then I'm up and I can't do anything. So
it's like Christmas morning.
It is a little bit like Christmas morning. First thing I do is I check that, and then, you drive into the office and all of a sudden you've got more money in there. And so the anticipation, the building of the dollars is really, really exciting. And we kind of have an idea of benchmarks as to where we've been year over year. So we knew last year we were ahead of, I think it was 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock hour. We knew that we were further ahead. So we were excited about that, but we know that we still have a lot more hours to go with that and to keep everyone engaged. So we work with a marketing firm to help with a lot of our social media and do the fantastic posts and photos and imagery that we use. And that's really inspiring, and they're so committed to what we're doing. So I love seeing people excited about what they're seeing and what we're posting and what we're telling them about too. So the day just builds, and throughout the day, we know when people are at lunch, and we can see when people are driving home because the donations change during that day. But we do have a Final Four, and that Final Four actually came about because we had the Final Four here in town a few years ago. And so we had some additional incentive prize dollars, and some of that thanks to FirstBank.
I was just going to say, where do those incentive dollars come from?
Yeah,
Jennifer?
some of them from FirstBank. We got a few others.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
And so we created this Final Four, and that really took hold. And it's always a battle almost at the end of the day where people just get really competitive to try and jockey for, the most dollars raised on that day. So it can get pretty intense where we see the figures changing drastically and that. But it's not about creating the competition, really. It's really about what is the nonprofit's goal to begin with and helping them reach their own individual goal.
And are there different categories as far as when somebody goes to the website, say they don't know who they want to give to, they just know they want to give. Are there different categories, or how can they find?
There's a filter when you go to Donate. You'll see the whole list of nonprofits. We've got a little over 720 nonprofits this year that have registered, and they have to register annually. We verify that they're legitimate 501c3 organizations. And when you go in there, you can actually see on the left-hand side of the page that there's a filter, and you can search by mission category. You can search by county of their headquarters. You can even search by county for service area. So obviously some people or organizations are located here in Phoenix, but they service statewide. Or they service 4 or 5 other counties. So you have that ability to look. You can also look for organizations that qualify for an Arizona tax credit as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can search. And I think people love being able to say, my passion is really about environmental, or it's really about children and youth. And they can search by that and they can find those organizations.
And perfect timing that it falls on April 2nd, since you did mention the Arizona tax credit, because that's a donation that you can actually make up until the day of filing your taxes. So if you haven't filed your taxes yet and you're looking at them going, you can take a look. And as you mentioned before, you can even pre-schedule your donations as well.
Yeah.
So Jennifer touched on it a little bit, Bryce, as far as your FirstBank's involvement with Arizona Gives Day and the incentive for the Final Four. What are some other ways that FirstBank is involved with Arizona Gives Day outside of just those incentives and being a backer of that?
Well, they certainly do the heavy lifting, and the day of is just fun for me. I just get to watch, and it's a little bit like Election Day and March Madness kind of combined into one.
That's a really good analogy. Yeah.
Watch the votes roll in, but we also look. There's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of staff time, a lot of technology, and so we have tried to contribute as well on the administrative side. And there's a lot of other generous foundations and other organizations that support the Gives Day effort. We also, obviously in-house have good marketing and PR people. Mm-hmm. And so we support the campaign with some marketing efforts and some PR efforts. And I've run a few commercials here and there over the years that are kind of clever and fun. They're probably still on YouTube or something. You can see them. And then we try to get our employees behind it, obviously, and ask them all to contribute. They get very excited about it. It's an exciting day and week for our employees to rally around the Gives Day effort. And they're very proud that their companies help sponsor that.
And again, going back to just one of the reasons why this is probably one of my favorite days, and you touched on it too, Jennifer, a little bit when you said for some nonprofits, this is their main fundraiser for the year. And just what a great way. There's all this excitement and everything already built up around it. Now, sure, as a nonprofit, you have to do some work on your own to make sure that not only your supporters know about it, but if you're looking for, new supporters, you want to be able to get your story and mission out there as well. But I just love that there's already so much excitement around that day that it's a little bit of that concept of collaboration where you're not having to do all the work yourself. So if you are a smaller nonprofit where you don't have a big marketing budget or PR or anything to that effect, you get a lot of support. I know on the website, you can go on there and get the logos and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's all that support around it already for them.
All of the participating organizations that get approved have access to social media graphics. We even put together templated content posts for them, for emails, for Facebook, for Twitter, whatever they want to do. We have all of that pre-done for them because many of them don't have a marketing department.
Right.
And so we provide all of that for them ahead of time. And again, that isn't possible without our supporters and without FirstBank supporting Arizona Gives for us to be able to provide that and do that. So it really it puts the organizations of all different sizes on a little bit more level playing field. So they have sharp looking materials that can go out. And we do webinars too. We provided this year 6 different webinars that were free for nonprofit organizations to understand not only the platform, but give them suggestions as to how they can have a successful marketing campaign, how to use social media because it's ever changing. Mm-hmm. And we've done ones in the past about, what does a press release look like for your organization and what would get picked up. And so helping them understand that it's a joint effort between their organization and us, and being able to provide the marketing outreach on a larger scale is what the Alliance tries to do, and then getting them involved from getting their donors involved in going to the site. I think a lot of donors we've seen, I don't have the exact statistics, but we definitely have seen an increase on the website in the number of donations an individual is doing at a time because it's a shopping cart experience. Mm-hmm. So they can keep looking and adding to their cart. And so, yeah, it's been exciting to see that and see people really gravitate.
Right.
to
Yeah.
the
I'm
site.
glad you mentioned that kind of shopping cart feature, because you can go on there and say, I'm going to give $25 to this. And then you can continue your shopping for another nonprofit and go, oh, but this one sounds great. Oh, here's another 25.
Yeah.
And so you've made $100 donation,
Yeah.
say, but you were able to pick 4 different nonprofits. And I always say, don't look at it like, oh, I've only made $25. What kind of an effect is that really going to have? You're still going to have an impact. And that's, again, one of the things I really like about Arizona Gives Day. You can kind of see that, barometer rising per se as donations are coming in, and just how collectively that's all helping.
One of my favorite quotes was a couple of years ago from a donor who we do a survey to get feedback every year, and donor replied, and one of their comments was, Arizona Gives Day makes me feel rich, and I don't have a lot of money to give, but I can pick and choose where I want that donation to go. It was pretty powerful to hear someone say that, and to feel like anyone could be a philanthropist,
right?
And give back to the community. So
I heard somebody call it the democracy of philanthropy.
Oh, how interesting. That's great.
I think that's the power of Gives Day, is that the community rallies around together, can watch what they build, and at the end of the day, look at what they created. And it's corny, and I use this every year, but to me, it's like the old-fashioned barn raising. We all get together and we share a picnic and build the barn. But that's what Gives Day is about, and it's old-fashioned in that notion, but it's super high-tech, and it's online, and it's new, and it's social media. And going back to your comment about the nonprofits, it's interesting, the ones that have really succeeded in that day, you do have to work if you're a nonprofit. You can't just register and put your page up. That just doesn't work. So you do have to work it, but it doesn't require the kind of staff and the kind of effort that a golf tournament or a gala or something that a lot of nonprofits can't put on.
Yeah, we've had a couple groups that have actually told us that they have either stopped their in-person event because it's more cost effective to do this, or we've seen them figure out a way to make it a complement to an event that they've had or that they normally have, because they've segmented out their audience essentially into, this is more the everyday giver. It doesn't have to always be $1,000+, although that's always great for a nonprofit, but it doesn't have to be high dollar amounts. Every dollar makes a difference for them. So.
And just like everybody wants maybe a different experience when they volunteer, even when they're donating, they want maybe a different way of doing that. And some people still really do enjoy, the golf tournament or going to the gala.
Absolutely.
But others don't like just here's my check and just mailing it in, and they don't see that.
Yeah.
They don't see anything from it. So this is a really great, kind of middle ground for that. It's not an event that you necessarily have to go to, but it's a fun way to experience kind of that look of maybe a silent auction or something like that, where they don't have to, they don't have to get dressed up or.
Yeah, and some people,
that's
just
heat.
Not some people's jam,
right.
I guess.
No, there's just different ways of giving. And
you can put your tux on and go online. And
yeah. You can still do that if you want to.
That's a great image.
I know. I would actually, yes. If anybody would like to post that, that would be great. I was thinking pajamas, but I know if you want to go the whole gala thing, then do your tux or your gown.
And we do have the opportunity for people to donate fully anonymously too. So people can choose to be just, have their name shown, etc. We have a partially anonymous, meaning they want a thank you letter or a call just to say thank you, but they don't necessarily want to be added to their donor list or added to their mailing list, etc. And then we have the fully anonymous, and we do have people that take advantage of that too. So it's interesting to see, how that changes. But we've had some donors reply and say, thank you. I want to give a little bit and don't want it. So we really have different opportunities for donors. The website also has the ability for donors to create their own account. The website's open year-round on azgives.org.
Oh, good to know.
And so they can manage a donor account and they can keep track of their donations. So if they say, I'm going to pull back on donating here, and I want to give more over here, or there's a new organization, they can manage all of that through azgives.org and their account.
Oh, that's great. And then end of year tax time or whatever, they can go in and kind of see everywhere that they've donated. And
and our receipts are electronic or email receipts that go out have been approved by the Arizona Department of Revenue.
Oh, good.
So if there is an Arizona tax credit, that receipt is eligible or can be used for tax purposes in submitting that.
And another thing I like about the website is you said how many 720 nonprofits are listed on there now? That's 720 nonprofits that maybe you have only heard of 715 of them.
Correct.
Or haven't heard of 715 of them. But it's a great way to even just learn about some new nonprofits. So I encourage those nonprofits when they're building those pages to look at it that way as well, to look at it as a way to just even raise some awareness about what they're doing in the community. I always see, all the different aspects that I'm involved with nonprofits and businesses and such. Not all the time is the end goal maybe of raising money, but of maybe getting some volunteers out of that opportunity.
And we have a checkbox that someone can mark and say, I want to learn more about what volunteer opportunities are available. So, a nonprofit can reach out to people who are interested in more than just, giving them dollars. Too.
Right.
Yep.
Well, Jennifer has stats on that too, in terms of the number of new donors to nonprofits. And I think it's a large percentage of the donations that come in are from new donors. And so it does increase awareness and resources for.
Yeah, about a third.
I think,
if I remember, right around a third or so are new. And part of that is, in the advertising and the PR that we get is bringing people to the site, just like doing the show. But I know FirstBank contributes a lot to helping us get the word out, especially here in the Metro Phoenix market. They provide some in-kind, not just some, but quite a bit of in-kind advertising and helping us get the word out. And I know that helps bring those new donors to the site and new donors to those particular nonprofits that had maybe never heard of them before.
Right. How many branches does FirstBank have in Arizona?
We have 15 in Arizona.
Okay.
Spread out around the valley. 6 in the East Valley. I think we have 4 or 5 in the West Side, and the rest kind of in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area.
Do the branches compete on AZ Gives Day?
That's a good idea. That little pizza contest or something.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking. I was like,
That is a good idea. We have time to put that together still.
I know. It's definitely. So what makes, kind of switching gears a little bit. I mean, obviously, involvement, in AZ Gives Day, and you talked a little bit about, just philanthropy in general for FirstBank and how important that is. But tell us just a little bit about what makes your, FirstBank different, I'd say, than maybe some of the other banks that are out there.
I'm happy to do that. But first I'll make a case just for banking in general. And Jennifer, knows this as well, is that, and maybe rightfully so, banks have gotten a bad rap over the years for certain indiscretions here or there. But when you think about great community partners, and even the big banks are really good at sponsoring community events and nonprofits. And
yeah, they are. Yeah.
I mean, if you just think about it from a common sense perspective, if we're doing business in communities that aren't doing well and aren't healthy and aren't prospering, we're not going to do very well in that environment. So it's just good business to help our communities. And the nonprofit partners are a big part of that. They kind of are, if you will, the gap between the public and the private sector that catches a lot that might fall through there. It's just important. It's a high priority for us. I think our management team in general is the expectations that you're going to serve on at least a couple nonprofits in a way that you can bring some financial expertise that will aid that organization. We try to bring some of our skills to help out. So we do a lot of volunteer work that way. We try to be a very generous sponsor. I think since about 2000, we've given about $60 million away as an organization over the last 20 years. So, $3 or $4 million a year. So it's something that we live, and it's our marketing push now called Banking for Good, trying to help our communities and
I can say they're living up to that.
and we are a big company. We are about, 18 billion in assets, have 2,600 employees. And I think one of the reasons we're different is that we're privately held, and all of our employees get an ownership stake in the bank. And so they think like owners, and
I saw that, and I liked that. That was really interesting. I think, as businesses are looking at ways that they can give back. It's not
Right.
just how can we give back in our community, but what can we do to give back to our employees and also encourage them to give back in the community.
Yeah.
But what are some ways to have them have a more vested, involvement with their company and in the community? And I think
Right.
that's a really great thing that.
Well, happy employees are going to make for happy
Yes.
customers,
Mhm.
and the opposite would be true as well. Our founders were visionary, and many, many years ago opened up, ownership to all the employees. And so out of our 2,600 employees, about 40% have been with us 10 years or more, which when you think about it is a pretty impressive statistic. And I think it tells you that our employees are satisfied. I've been there 30 years and I'm not unusual other than I'm just older. So.
And what made it kind of stick out? You talked a little bit about this in the beginning as far as partnering then with Alliance of Arizona Nonprofits. What made that a good partnership, do you think? Or it continues to make that a good partnership?
It's a great partnership. And there's so much synergy, first of all, between the goals of Gives Day and the Alliance and FirstBank. But just the day itself, it again, I think it embodies banking for good and helping out your communities and your customers. And we hope obviously it becomes a more high profile event. And I think it's starting to be that way. I think the media is starting to accept it and to understand it. I don't think they understood it for a few years, and more attention's being paid to it. And it's really gratifying to see that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I will say, just to add to what Bryce said earlier, is, they've involved their employees in Arizona Gives in different branches. So
Right.
The last few years, they've done a Give It Forward campaign every year. And their Give It Forward events have basically helped pay for either groceries, gas, or a dinner bill or breakfast bill. And they then give a card they pay for it for the people. They give a card to them and ask them to give it forward on Gives Day, and to take the dollars that they would have spent at that restaurant or on their gas or with their groceries and donate it to a nonprofit. So to do that, they've had to get their employees involved.
Right.
And so their employees are the ones who are undercover, so to speak, including Bryce, who he has been a bagger at a grocery store a few years ago, and undercover, and getting to tell people, hey, we've just paid for all of your groceries. And there were people who had tears. There were people who,
fun.
Were just overjoyed. And, FirstBank has gotten their team involved in all of that, and, done that on their own accord.
Right.
So we're grateful for that. It kicks off the giving season for Arizona Gives. And, I think all of their employees, whether they're helping out with the Give It Forward campaigns or not, hopefully feel some sort of pride in knowing that their company has helped make the day happen.
Right.
And transpire. So.
Yeah.
Those events have been a lot of fun. And, we bagged groceries, and that's a hard job. I can testify to that. And then we pumped gas for people, and some people were suspicious. And
I can imagine.
Did not want that person approaching them at the gas pump. But, the other thing about business and philanthropy, when you are out there in a tight labor market and trying to recruit employees as a business, young workers want to work for a company that is invested in the
Right.
community, whatever the business they're in. And it's a competitive advantage when you're hiring. If you're not doing that, you're going to lose out on good prospects. So it's an important aspect of employee attraction.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. And then as far as Jennifer, Alliance of Arizona Nonprofits, you touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but kind of tell us a little bit more about the Alliance and how nonprofits what benefits do they get from being a part of the Alliance?
Yeah, so the Alliance was started 15 years ago. Again, another group came together and said, do we want a unifying organization for the nonprofit sector here in the state? And obviously the answer to that was yes. But we're constantly evolving. We were started to assist with providing resources to nonprofits in the form of finding grants. So we've got grants tools that they can find grants that apply to their missions. We do a lot of advocacy. We've been down at the Capitol a lot this year with a bill that we've got to hopefully secure a tax deduction above the line here in the state, since the tax laws have changed federally. We know we've done a study with ASU Seedman's which I can get into later, but they basically proposed how much money we would end up losing because of the changes in the tax laws. So advocacy has been a big one. And then we do a lot of education too, both online and in person, and capacity building types of things. So if you think of a business chamber providing resources, or in the business side, you've got SCORE helping with figuring out how to run their business. We kind of have the same thing with that. We also have business partner members who provide a lot of tools and resources to our members, and the directory we've got on our website. We've got legal firms, we've got banking firms, we have people who can help with office supplies, we've got real estate people helping them find leases. So, I mean, you name it. And if you need it in a business, you need it doing nonprofit work too. Mm-hmm. So we help bring all of that together and provide those resources to the nonprofits through their membership.
Yeah, I like that you pointed out the ways for businesses to be a part of that because, again, it's just like everybody kind of wants to give back in their own different ways. Sometimes businesses aren't aware of different ways that they can give back. This sounds like a really great way for them to kind of get started as maybe being a business partner and then going from there with where they can either give back with money or time or their services.
Yeah. And, at certain levels of membership, I mean, they then get their own page on the directory, which is not open to just our members. It's actually open to anyone on the site to go look. So they can find services, that are needed that, maybe are specialized in some ways specifically for the nonprofit sector. So there's lots of ways to be engaged. Obviously, sponsorship is one. We have an annual conference. Obviously, Arizona Gives Day and support for that. And so there are a variety of ways to assist the work that we're doing on behalf of the whole sector.
And you talked before, too, about, so of those, I'd say 720 nonprofits, stipulations, I guess, for the nonprofits when they apply to be part of Arizona Gives Day. Is there anything in particular that qualifications they need to meet?
Yeah, they need to be a 501c3 charitable organization is the first requirement. And they need to have received their IRS letter of determination, because we have a lot of groups who maybe, we just turned it in 2 weeks ago. Well, if we're going to allow a donor to give to you, we want to make sure that you're approved.
Right. Exactly.
If they're going to try and deduct that on their taxes, they need to be approved. So that's first and foremost. The second part is that they need to either be headquartered in Arizona and or providing services in Arizona. So we do have a few groups who are located in other states, or their headquarters are located in other states, but they provide services or they have a regional chapter here in Arizona. So there has to be some tie in one of those two ways to be able to be qualified.
Right. And I imagine, because you talked about counties before, they can be from anywhere in Arizona.
Correct.
Right. So how many, well, obviously you don't need to know the exact number, but as far as nonprofits that are, say, participating Tucson or Flagstaff or even, further north than that.
We have a little over 400 in the Metro Phoenix area that are participating. And that seems about right, because we honestly have the Maricopa County area has about 80% of the nonprofit population in the state.
Right.
And then we have approximately 200, a little over 200, in the southern Arizona area. Obviously most of those being in Tucson, and then 100 that are in the northern, part of the state that are participating. So really kind of divided, pretty close to how the percentages work out from location standpoint across the state. If you look at every single 501c3, we actually have 20,000 nonprofits in the state of Arizona. That does include your, PTO groups and little leagues and everything. So when you get down to a number of that are actually employing nonprofits, that dwindles down to, I think, around 3,500, 4,000, somewhere in there. So kind of, you got to look at it differently. But there are groups that participate who are 100% volunteer run.
Yeah.
And it's incredible the work and time that they're putting in. They're not getting paid for any of this. They're doing it out of the love of the mission of the organization. So, and there's a lot of, grassroots groups out there too. So
I will say Southern Arizona has really embraced this event.
Yeah, they have
given Maricopa County a run for their money in terms
yes,
of
they have.
contributions. And
Yeah.
Hopefully we step it up this year in Maricopa. But
help us out here.
Yeah. What would you say as far as, we talked a little bit about how it's changed over time from when Arizona Gives Day was kind of started, but in a nutshell, like what's their, I guess, overarching like goal of Arizona Gives Day? I mean, obviously there's a financial goal to it, but what more outside of that?
There's two goals in my mind, and Bryce, feel free to add to this, but one is to bring awareness to the nonprofit community and all of the amazing work that they're doing. I think there's a lot of organizations out there. People don't realize that they're actually a nonprofit doing the work. And so number one is bringing awareness to the sector and the work that they're doing. Number two is to build philanthropy here in the state. We have a more transient population. People didn't necessarily grow up here, and that's changing some. But a lot of people give where they used to live, and don't give here where they live either all year round or even part of the year. And so helping them to understand that every dollar creates an impact in our community, and encouraging them to give and to think about philanthropy in their weekly, monthly, yearly budgets, and to include that in that as well. So that's really the nonprofit awareness and building that philanthropy with the public.
Right.
I also think that it is great community building. And, Phoenix and Arizona, new state, new city, and the tremendous growth they've had over the last 40 years. And we run behind a lot of other areas that have had, 100, 200-year history. And I think philanthropy has kind of followed that too. But continue to grow, and I think this is one of the ways to knit the community together. It's just a fun way that, again, everybody can participate and see the success at the end of the day.
And the business involvement, I think, too. And I think, like
Absolutely.
I said, when I started off, that was one of the things that really, piqued my interest when I saw the flyer on the table. I was like, oh, wait, businesses.
We'd love to see more.
Yeah.
I think that there's businesses out there that don't even know about Arizona Gives yet, or they don't know how they can get involved. And so, I encourage them to reach out and have a conversation, or contact Bryce and, ask them how things have gone. And, but we'd love to have more businesses involved. And like I said, our website at azgives.org has a whole list of different ways that businesses can get involved. So it doesn't matter what size they are.
Right. And you've made it so easy for a business if they do want to set up, like you were saying, small business, large business, if they do want to set up a giving page, you've just made it so easy for them to pop in there, put in some information, and set up a page. And I'm assuming then they get a link, and that's what they would.
Yeah, they get to create their own URL. They can choose what that says. And we know it's only a couple days from now, so we know sometimes there's approvals that need to happen. So it will be happening next year too. So, and that'll be available. And once that page is created and you have a login, it's there. And so it'll be created, ready to go. You can do it now, or you can do it later.
That's actually
April.
what I was thinking. Maybe you don't get it set up in time for April 2nd, but then you've got it ready to go for next year.
Yeah. And it gives us the opportunity to help them understand how it works, as well. So it's not too late to kind of put that into your plans if you haven't already, figured out or determined how you're going to participate. But you obviously, you don't have to have a landing page. You can just encourage your employees to give.
Right.
So that's,
Yeah. So even
I'll
if
take
you don't
that.
get,
Yeah, exactly. I'll take that over anything. We just want people to know what it's about and get involved.
And it's super simple. I mean, take it from me. I already was on there and snagged a couple logos and things for my own promos. But it's super simple to go on there, click on get involved for your business. There was a whole section where you can download Instagram, already ready to go, right size, everything for you for Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can take the logos. There's even some posters on there if you want to print them in-house or have somebody print them for you.
We have all of it provided and ready to go for you.
Yeah. So easy.
We try to, both for the business sector, and the nonprofit sector, we really have tried to do more of a plug and play and make it as simple as possible. Cause, fundraising is, for the nonprofit side is challenging and difficult, at times. And so the more that we can do to help them prepare and have things done for them, the better. And the business sector is going just as fast. And so they need help with having things just ready to go for them, especially the smaller businesses too. So this just makes it easy for everyone.
Yeah. And Bryce, I don't know, did you get a chance there to read a little note that got passed around the table here? So we mentioned the pizza party. Right. You said, we can totally get that taken care of by April 2nd.
Yes.
Well, if you do, it looks like Phoenix Business Radio X here is willing to pay for that pizza party at the branch. Who raises the most on AZ Gives Day. So a little incentive to get that set up by April 2nd. And even do a little live broadcast from the,
Are you up for that? I'm piping in. I don't usually hop on Jacqueline's show, but this is Karen Nowicki, owner and president for Phoenix Business Radio X. And I couldn't help but jump in on that. Jacqueline.
I saw her over there like scribbling something and I'm like, what's happening? What's going on?
Jacqueline, kind of planted a seed, I think. And if you're open to it, we can always delete this part out of the broadcast when we turn it into a podcast. But we would love to. Jacqueline just did a broadcast with us out for Phoenix Startup Week, and we had a blast, didn't we?
We did.
We co-hosted. I think we decided. I don't know.
We lost count.
15.
I don't know.
We just did these little mini interviews, and so we can talk more about that. But at least let Phoenix Business Radio be the sponsor for a pizza celebration for the winning branch.
There's no way to turn that down.
That'd be great.
All right,
turn that down. That's really cool. And to me, that's kind of the essence of the way we like to see Gives Day marketed, with people participating and being creative.
Right.
Well, good. I'll go on mute again, but I wanted to just make that a sincere offer, and would love to have the two of you come co-host with me. Very easy and a lot of fun, and we'll talk more strategically about what that means for your bank members and, of course, for the nonprofit. So we'll have fun figuring that out, huh, Jacqueline?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, good. So I won't pass any more notes other than smiling faces. I'm out.
Just beware, though. She'll say, you want to help me co-host? And then she'll walk away and say, now you have to push all these buttons. She did that to me. I was like, she goes, you just do this, 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 and this. And then
Hey, you can't do that after I'm on mute.
I thought that was mute.
I had to leave the segment, I stayed on property, but I had to go do a breakout session with, I don't know, I think we had 70 participants. They moved me to the big room. It was on the art of the connected conversation. And we had planned to have an extra producer there, to help for that almost 2 hours. And I looked at Jacqueline that morning, like, oh yeah. So before I walk away from the production, let me show you how to do everything. And she just went, boing. But the moral of the story is you were a pro.
I did it.
And she did it
in the right order.
Yeah.
And everything.
And she took it. It was an Instagram moment. She made sure that all of her fans and followers on Instagram knew that she was thrown into the ring with the bowl.
I was in charge of all those buttons.
She did. It's really much easier than I make it look. Anyway, truly out. Go.
Okay. Well, after all that fun, as it happens every single time, we're almost out of time here, but I do want to give the last few minutes here for each of you to just talk a little bit about your organization and let us know if somebody's listening to this and they want to get involved, whether it's they want to start banking with FirstBank, or they want to join the Alliance, or they want to be part of AZ Gives Day, how they can do that. So, Bryce, let's go ahead and just start with you. How should people reach out if they want to get in touch with you or the bank, start doing business with you?
Oh, we'd love that. Obviously technology is a big deal for Gives Day, and we love technology too. And probably the best way is just efirstbank.com. That's all spelled out one word, efirstbank.com. All sorts of information. You can open an account, apply for a mortgage. We offer really all the consumer products that you'd want in a bank. And whether you're a small business and you're looking for a small business loan for startup or working capital, what have you, we'd love to talk to you. We provide mortgages for folks looking to buy their first home or their 10th home, whatever it may be. Love to lend in commercial real estate sector. So that's an area where we love to get out and talk to folks. Very involved in the nonprofit community. So if you're a nonprofit and you want to find out more about FirstBank, we bank a lot of the nonprofits and have really competitive products for that. And just encourage folks to go to azgives.org on April 2nd. Just consider making a contribution to your favorite nonprofit.
Great. Or learning about a new one.
Or learning about a new one.
Or
both.
three.
Yeah.
All right. And Jennifer?
The best way to get a hold of the Alliance, the same thing, probably go to the website. We're located at Arizona, all spelled out, not AZ, but Arizona Nonprofits, which is plural. AZGives.org, and you can find all sorts of information there. Under the About section, you can find our staff information and my direct email as well if you want to get a hold of me personally. But we do have, a membership person, et cetera. And of course, we do have ways to get a hold of us through AZGives as well. So AZGives.org. There is contact information on the donor page, donor information, and you can click on that contact form and get a hold of one of us at the Alliance.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for coming in today and talking about AZ Gives. I learned a few new things about Arizona Gives Day, so I'm really excited about that. Hopefully everybody listening has it on their calendar. But like you said, even if you don't have it on your calendar and you're like, I'm going to forget come April 2nd, you can go on there right now and even schedule a donation to pop out on April 2nd. So
we're so grateful that you've had us here today.
Thank you.
Oh, of course. No, it was, like I said, it was like a couple months ago. We were at a table. I'm like, you have to be on. And I'm like, before AZ Gives Day, we have to talk about this.
Timing.
So yeah, definitely. Well, thank you both so much. Everybody, you've been listening to 3C Amplified, where we share how others are connecting, creating, and collaborating to amplify their impact. And we hope we've inspired you to do the same in your community. Until next time, I'm Jacqueline Destremps with Another Hand Advantage. Let me help create a digital marketing strategy to put your organization's mission in front of your target audience and highlight the impact you're having in your community. Visit anotherhandadvantage.com to learn more and connect.